This motherfucker's just talking.
Hey man, I'm a little tired today. Excuse me. I had a little bit of sparkling water, tangerine mango flavored. So a little bit of the burpees too. Steffi knows as well. But we're here. Welcome to the Just Talking Podcast. Who I am. Right? I'm Doc now. Just for those in the back that can't comprehend where you guys came from. Otter? I don't know. Hey man, how y'all doing? Yeah, getting ready for tax season? Tax season? You've been getting your documents in order? You've been crossing your T's, dotting your I's, so you can get that refund? And if you're not, just trying to minimize how much you gotta pay. I understand that. Whew. We got like 2 real topics. Man, I won't lie. I feel like, I don't want to toot my own horn. Though this is not even going to be a real topic, but we're going to have a little bit of a sidebar, right? I'm going to have 2 sidebars. But this first one is like, it's just like, it feels like niggas just like, it's one thing to try and have a conversation. And I'm not even going to go deep into this joint. It's really not about no friends. It's really about adults. And the idea that adults really be fucking, like certain adults really be fucking trying to push shit. It's not even family members either. So I don't wanna cast no aspersions. All right. But like the idea that these niggas just want to lord over some people, and it's just disgusting me. Cause especially if you sound dumb when you're doing that, it's just gonna piss me off even more. All right. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, all right? I have a full overnight shift, all right? A real overnight shift, mind you. All right? And then there's somebody else that doesn't have a full overnight shift. All right? I wouldn't even call it overnight, all right? What is that one Bane line? Shit, it's, I was born in the darkness. You simply adopted it. Type shit. And nigga gets off at 1:30 a.m. That's not real. Get the fuck out of my face, bro. You're not overnight. You just happen to be working a little bit at night. You get home at that time, piss off. Don't talk to me about that shit. And you choose to sleep late? You choose to sleep in the morning? Then you gonna bitch about somebody else making noise for at most 10 minutes because the walls for our bathroom that is shared, by the way, is next to the wall for your room? Go piss off. Nigga, go and take your privilege because you're not paying, hypothetically speaking, and nigga paying basically same amount as what's being paid for where I'm at right now. That nigga gets double the size in a fucking bathroom in his room. His room is more than double my size. His closet's a walk-in, basically. But just hypothetically speaking. I'm just saying, bro, because niggas were really trying to do that, spin, and then talk crazy to you. Like, silly shit, dog. Don't talk crazy. You got all this time to fucking sleep and do all that shit. Don't talk crazy to me. Know your fucking place. I'm especially me. But again, we're moving past that. Now another like smaller, lighthearted, more type thing. I've given up social media for the month. Started February 1st. I have been on my just talking Instagram. That's the only one I have still logged in for the most part. Just because, advertisement. I feel like Instagram, right as of right now, is where a bunch of the people who watch actually see my stuff and listen from, to be completely fair. So it's only right. It's only right if I do stuff with it in that sense, or not do stuff with it, but like I'm able to like maintain that communication with the people who do watch, listen. Funny enough, I don't really like push, advertise, market my shit enough to really gain the most. Especially I could also like leverage my old account or my actual main IG because I have more followers. Arguably probably more people who interact with my stuff on there. However, I probably won't do that for a little bit now. We'll probably see maybe towards the summer-ish, maybe around that time period. We'll try and dabble into that. I will try and gravitate towards the more YouTube space. I can't really see it, if I'm being completely honest. Like in general podcast analytics, YouTube and that is separate. But I would argue that that's probably the best in terms of growth for me. So I'll probably lean towards that. Who knows? Who knows though? But I don't even think I've asked you guys how you doing. Oh, I won't even lie. For other people, social media is like a bigger thing, I guess. Like me taking a break from social media isn't like, oh, I put too much time into it. Oh, I kind of like I'm too focused on it. I actually like I don't post pictures on my IG. My IG is usually main like that's for an example. My main IG is usually only for contact basis. Is usually like talking to people, whatever, seeing their stories, private stories, whatever. My Twitter, I don't even use my main Twitter anymore. I mostly use like this my just talking slash doc now Twitter, which is just mainly for trolling and like if I feel like I just want to like get a short burst out about a topic that I see. But especially if I think like there's a bunch of dumb people on the side. But I don't really focus on that, so like that's not a main thing for me. I don't get anything. I'm not fucking Elon baited into trying to pay for anything for like that. Like so it's basically just like another platform. And again, to be completely fair, like the I think for me, the reason I don't the reason that I don't see myself per se as somebody who would like be affected by Twitter, I guess that much is mostly just because like I've always like especially forum type stuff. I'm more of a like 2000s type of internet type guy in a sense where I was using forums a lot, and Twitter is basically just another forum page to me. So none of that, especially Twitter, none of that like ever feels real to me or like in existence. Nor do I ever feel like there's certain that portions of it is relevant in my own life. I remember I was talking to my friend recently, and I was all like, if you look at a lot of these like accounts or like YouTubers, a lot of these people who are like saying the most controversial things, saying the like dumbest stuff, saying things that don't even seem like they should be reality, you also have to keep in mind where they are. A majority of them, Miami, just that general Florida area, which, if you know Florida men, even Florida women, even though they don't get as much hearsay or flack, just the same, or fucking people in Cali, like there's certain parts, there's a lot of crazy people and a lot of people who are struggling in certain ways. So they're just gonna try and like get farm engagement. They're gonna try and say just crazier stuff because that's how they get big. And it's like, sure, there might be some semblance of a reality to it. Like Fresh and Fit is a perfect example. And I remember there's this one guy, the 285 Slim on Twitter. He was all like, I've never met a girl that from Miami that wasn't basically a prostitute. And that's where they're stationed. So when they're saying a lot of that like crazy stuff about women, crazy stuff and all that, you gotta keep in mind. One of them even got caught buying a sugar baby. And then lying on the podcast saying they just met normally on a yacht. I met her on a yacht and we just kind of hit it off. Much less we actually find out this nigga was sending payments. What was it? It was the fresh guy, the fat, ugly nigga. It's true. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think Myron like that either. But hey, which is funny. That nigga is fit, quote unquote. That nigga look like a stick. Like, just say you skinny, dog. It's great. It's cool. It makes sense. A lot of East Africans are skinny. Like, it makes sense. Y'all niggas is good track runners. Shit. I went with the homies to Philadelphia. We went up running. Everybody got time to set me. I don't got the knees for that. Shit, my knee is hurting kind of now. I don't got the knees for it. But I timed the homies running up the rocky stairs, and lo and behold, the shortest guy, the East African, was the one that won. It's not racist if it's a good stereotype, right? The Asians like actually get mad if you say like, "Are you good at math?" or some shit. Like, I don't know. Me personally, what's a good black stereotype? Athletic? Yeah, I don't hate that one. I will say the big dick one that's sexual harassment. So I'm not all for that one. Like, while I appreciate the sentiment, I'm still gonna look at you a little bit weird for dick watching, and I've always felt that way. Dog. Freshman year, and even some portions of like high school, but especially freshman year, that shit's low key leaning on it. Like, it's cool if you're making it for a joke, but it was and look, and it was mostly my niggas that were talking about it. Like the niggas that were talking about it as a joke. Still slightly dick watching, but it's fine. Jokey jokes. I'm cool with that. But like, some girls made it seem like that was a personality trait that they had to get in on, or like they had to like at least don't mention that shit to me. You don't think that's a little bit strange? Tell me that y'all been dick watching, saying that, oh, I can just tell he has a big dick. You don't think that's a little strange? To be fair for the last person, that last girl, she didn't tell me directly that. She told somebody else. That's why I ended up getting chased through the hallway that first like week or two, like mad early. I got chased through the hallway because that nigga told her that he was gonna snitch on her. So that nigga comes running out the study room. I just popped out the elevator, just coming back from like the gym or from the food hall or some shit. One of the fucking two. And then this nigga just I see one white guy running towards me. I see a black after him. Ooh. Well, I don't know when my mic started having some issues with the cutoff and whatnot. Give me a second. Let me try and fix this a little bit. All right, that should be a little bit better. I hope. Is it still recording? Bet. But what was I saying? One the girl there was a white was, fuck. Hello, hello. All right, cool. Basically, I got out the I don't even know exactly where this cut off, to be honest, but I'll finish wherever I think I was at. I got out the elevator, and this is before I even known brother like that. I get out the elevator, and girlie had told uh, brother that she figured that I had a big dick or whatever, and he was all like, as a joke, I guess, was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna tell him." Mind you, I don't even know brother like that so far. Like, so I hop out the elevator, coming back from most likely a gym run. I'm pretty sure it's either gym or food hall, but I'm pretty sure it was gym because especially first semester, I was not eating at that joint that much. Really, when only when somebody was invited me, but basically I'm there. He starts running after me. Like basically I get out the elevator. I'm a real nigga. I'm not just gonna let somebody chase or I'm not gonna just let somebody run after me. So I ran too. Like that don't make no sense to me. If I see somebody running after me, then there's either something wrong with something that's happening behind him or that nigga coming to me. And I can't be caught getting kicked out within this early of the school year. I can't hit nobody. I figured, and then I found out a girl is chasing after him. So this nigga yelling after me, chasing after me. I'm like, fuck. I can't. My fucking card's in like my bag. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's gym. So I knew I couldn't get it out. I had to run, get to the next stairwell, and then be like, what the fuck is going on? Later, I found out it's because she had a hypothesis about my meat. And that nigga just wanted to tell me what her hypothesis was. He ended up telling me. Which is hilarious though. Well, basically, all this to say, meat watching is crazy when you really think the younger years. I feel like doing it and talking about it now is ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. All right, let's get to the first real topic that will be covered, um, which is the Avatar, the Last Airbender, live action news. And I understand that maybe not a lot of you guys are known about Atla, Atla, but it's a animated series so popularly animated, at least in the West, it's been even considered to be an anime almost in terms of like how well it's liked. Basically, everything about it is great, but I still want to get into wow. So there is a Tumblr post about people talking about it. Then I want to read this Variety article, but I do want to read this Tumblr post because this is like the old stuff, I guess. And this is when I guess when people were really talking about it. Bat Boy Blog says, "Are we going to talk about the sexism in Avatar?" I'm going to start with getting a few things out of the way statements. This is not canceling Avatar: The Last Airbender. Nick did that over 10 years ago. Joke. I guess somebody named Nick, probably within the same like following. I'm not sure. I am for sure not saying don't watch it or don't enjoy it, or that you watching it like in a kid cartoon from the mid 2000s says anything but stars on it, anything about you as a person. And two, I normally wouldn't have anything to say about this. I normally would just leave it alone, but I've seen a lot of posts giving Avatar glowing reviews in terms of wonderful, important life lessons it shares and complex character development. And indeed, I've seen the very issues I'm about to address being called good things. And while I love punishment and am a feminist, so here goes. There's just something about Azula's. Oh my gosh. All right. So this Tumblr post, I guess, is like, can we not have a woman as a villain? Like before I even start reading this section, Are we not allowed to have a woman as a villain? Whatever. Okay, so season one main villain is Zuko. Is pushed onto the path of redemption towards the end of season one, start of season two. There's a tragic backstory, a rough childhood, to excuse his hunting our heroes, etc. So we have to replace him. If he's not going to be our bad guy, we replace him with his sister Azula. And this is where we start having our problems. Azula is pretty much every sexist stereotype of a woman in seeking power. She's cold, mean, manipulative. That's damn near most of the Fire Nation. She was taught that way. Whatever. Takes joy in emasculating any man. She took joy with attacking women too. If you remember the actual fucking island episode, but whatever. Lucky for you, and this is a cut from the manga or the graphic novel. Lucky for you, your mother and fire sages pleaded with me to give you a chance. Azula, on the other hand, never needed that kind of luck. She was born lucky. You were lucky to be born. And again, I would argue this is actually in shape with the idea that how you become raised is going to affect how you are when you become older. I would argue that if Zuko was a better fighter and all of that, and didn't get raised basically by a soft uncle, Uncle Iroh, shout out. Hey yo, maybe we'll play Uncle Iroh by Toby Lou as well. That nigga Unc for real. But this is just a, and this is what always bothers me about like these types of like things, because it doesn't try and like actually dive into it. It just, hey, this is what it is, and this is why it's a sexist stereotype. I'm like, okay, whatever. Indeed, in season three, her mockery and emasculation of Zuko is part of what makes us sympathetic to him. This is standard villain stuff, particularly standard for a lady villain, but not the heart of the moment. We see a lot of Zuko's relationship with his mother, and also the relationship with Azula, which sets up a dichotomy of how women are treated in the show. I'll give it that. To an extent, there is a large motion of sexism. However, with the idea that Azula was going to be made the Fire Lord, I would argue that the Fire Nation, especially at that time, was not really particularly sexist, but more of just a power type struggle, and it just turned out that way, that most of the men were more power type ones. Sigmund Freud came up with the idea of the Madonna whore complex, the idea that men see women one of two ways. As saintly, caring, loving, pure mother, or as a whore. What? I think one can also put Madonna, Lady Macbeth. Jesus Christ. So now we're just like, so we take something that this nigga said, and then we want to change it up again and add and make it a different complex. So you shouldn't even, because this, now she says it's the Madonna, Lady Macbeth complex, that women are either loving, nurturing, and selfless, or cold, harsh, and selfish. But what about the horror part? We don't care about that one anymore. What he actually was saying. Okay. Now using this frame, we see Zuko and Azula's mother Ursa. She is kind and loving, but also ineffective, not taking part in the politics or struggle. We see Azula from an early age draw to her father in male power. She repeatedly says herself that for this she was a monster, and her mother saw her that way, which brings us to her gaining power as is often the case in sexist narratives. Okay, but what would be the difference between a man trying to gain power, a man trying to, like, I would argue Zuko was the exact same way, who wanted, like, especially in season one, who wanted to seek validation from his father, especially after his mom left. And it was just from other teachings. Like, literally, season two's betrayal, Zuko, that is literally Azula manipulating Zuko's want to be wanted and loved by his father. But as I was saying, whatever, I'll just keep reading, which brings us to her gaining power often. Say, father steps off to become the empire of the world, gives her a breadcrumb. Okay, I guess. Just a breadcrumb, which is where sexism goes right off the wheels. After gaining power, Azula's womanly emotions are just too much for her. She goes, I would just argue that it's crazy to me that like every time I feel like these feminists are more sexist than these authors and these creators that and it's always crazy to me because you determining that she's just going crazy and it's her womanly emotions are kind of nuts and like the best like at most the only leeway I give to you would be like the little island episode which they end up all fucking up the people on the island because all of the people like there was a lot of emotions in general for almost everybody on the island. There are people like read anything up past their quote unquote feminist literatures because I have read so many books where it's like women who gain power are not, and multiple, where it's just like not women who gain power, women who want it for various reasons. The reason that was stated of her wanting power from the get go was always cracked. It was always off. Even the fact that her like the way that she like practiced, the fact that her fire was blue because of and it was because of her rampant practice of lightning and the lightning attacks. And one of the reasons why fucking Iroh didn't really care for Zuko to use it. Like there's a lot more like evidence in the narratives for this. And I would also argue that we also see a lot more of Azula in the latter books. So we learn a lot more of her character in the latter books. Particularly given her slide into the top almost comical paranoia, complete with ghosts and illusions, is also close to what happens to Lady Macbeth herself. Yes, usually it happens to multiple people, bro. Oh my gosh, like that is a popular trope for crazy people. I would actually argue because does she have an issue with Jinx from the League of Legends show? I recently I recently rewatched the video, but I recently watched the video because I love watching videos against about narratives. But they were arguing the parallels between Jinx's fall to insanity towards who is it? Daenerys's fall to insanity at the later parts of Game of Thrones. I haven't even finished Game of Thrones, but he was basically talking about how he would have fixed it based off of the or few standard rules that should come with it. And I would argue that avatars. Let me look at this up real quick. So y'all just know I'm not just fucking capping. Fall. I'm looking my history too. Award, Jesus Christ, it's Adam 22, nigga. San, put in the wrong one. Insanity. Zombie arc, Reverend Insanity. Oh, How Not to Write Madness. Arc versus Game. This is by Skinny. I don't really know how to pronounce him. Let me see. And he also like does the hobbies one too, which is also like a crazed, deranged one, and how the ring kind of does that. So question. All right. I don't know why, but I can't pause on my recording anymore. So we're just gonna have to see how this goes. This is probably gonna be a late episode because of interruptions and shit like that. But fuck it, we're here. We're just gonna fucking move on. Rule 3: Mad World breeds conflict. Or world of paradoxes, where she's struggling between those two worlds. Rule 5. I'm pretty sure Rule 5 was the burn it all down moment. Rules, the Hitler rule is crazy. But yeah, essentially, there's so many. There's like I want to say he gave like 10 rules max. I don't think there's like more than 10. Yeah, he gave 10 rules, and there's a list at the end. You. All right, so how to write madness, externalization, mad identity, conflicting worlds, paradoxes, build up, positivity, grief trigger, inception point, spiritual deterioration, which was literally what the scene that this person was talking about, the literal spiritual deterioration, and then moment of agency. Which brings us to the final bat, especially when you have to consider that her friends betrayed her. The only people that she has ever trusted, like almost fully in the world, both betrayed her. One of them, to be fairness, like if you want to say she's the sexist idea or trope, even though I would argue that she isn't, and she actually talks about not being like that sexist trope, Zuko's wife, Mai. And then what you call it, Ty Lee only stops Azula because Azula was gonna kill Mai, or heavily hurt Mai, and she didn't want to see that, so Ty Lee did that, and because she saw Azula was going mad. And after that, it's like, oh well, it's whatever. Which brings us to the final battle, which she just skipped a whole. This person, not she, not he, maybe they skipped an entire portion where it brings us to the final battle. Azula's embodiment of unnatural female power. Power taking on the male role has driven her mad with her out of control woman emotions. Well, it won't be Zuko, as he's not her thematic opposite. This is not a battle between honor and dishonor, but between two visions in the female role. Enter Katara. From the jump, Katara's water, element really in life, nurturing our needs. She's given healing abilities. Now I could go 3 seasons worth of examples of her kind, good listener, being supportive and sweet character. However, Avatar wanted to make sure you didn't miss it. So in season 3, they do a whole episode how Katara is everyone's mom. Katara's own brother Sokka declares that he can no longer remember their mother's face and only sees Katara when she thinks of mom, rather than be the bad thing that her older brother sees her as his mom is held up as a good thing. Katara's mom. Remember what I said, Madonna, Lady Macbeth? Well, here's our Madonna's everybody's mom, caring kind, putting others first. She's a mirror of Azula, selfish. Look, I'm not even a Katara hater, but why are we really hyping Katara up like that? She's definitely shown her shares of selfishness plenty of times in the show. She's definitely showed her like uncaring nature towards everybody else's plot. Like, what are we talking about? Yes, Sokka, a literal man-child from the beginning who was getting his kicks literally off of being with or off of teaching kids in the beginning how to quote-unquote be a man in his eye, because there were not many men in his village. Like this, and this is why I'm saying, like, the unfairness of like the categorizations of it all is just nasty to me. And it's always, and it's, I did a similar thing when I was talking about the fucking Elden Ring stuff, where it's like, look, if you guys want to say you guys don't understand stories and that you got everything that you see in your lens has to be in like this sexist thing, then maybe you're the sexist one. Jesus Christ. Now I'm going to get to the actual like Netflix live action Avatar series took out how sexist Sokka was in the original. A lot of moments in the anime show was iffy. Now, mind you, I don't think this is going to get past book 1, but like I fucking said, this nigga Sokka is supposed to be a man. Is not even supposed to be. How old is this nigga even older than like 16? You see, Sokka's age at the start of 15 years old. We're saying basically a freshman in high school. And even originally, according to this, he was originally conceived as being 13 years old, but was aged up during the show's early development. Jesus Christ. Mind you, let me see. Avatar's author walks away from live action. That's what I've heard. I've been Avatar: The Last Airbender creators, and this is in 2020, so this is why these niggas get the fucking boldness to actually do this. I didn't know that way earlier the creators walk away from the live action Netflix series that early on. Yeah. And this is what I'm saying. Like, Oda put his stamp on One Piece. One Piece is literally, to this day, the only good live action. I don't even think One Piece is great, but for what they had to do, they had to shorten the series. They went through their budget within those episodes that aired, so they didn't do all those other episodes. But they went through their budget. Like, this is what I'm saying. When you have a strong thing, but oh my god. Just days before Avatar: The Last Airbender sequel series made its debut on Netflix, the happy union between Avatar fans and the streaming service was shattered in separate statements. Di Martino and Corsico announced they had quit the show in June over concerns of creative integrity. Now, I'm not even gonna go into that. I want all of you guys to go and do that. But imagine people taking your work, telling you that even though it is a super duper popular series, even though so many people love knowing about it, so many people loved it, like kids to adults alike, they're telling you that you should change it because of how they see it, even though it is the most well-beloved series. One of the most well-beloved series that aired on Nick. And Nick has its fucking staples. But anyways, with Avatar: Last Airbender made its live-action debut on Netflix next month, Sokka's sexism will be toned down considerably. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, a cast member, Kia Wentia Qatar and Ian Osley, Sokka informed fans that Sokka's sexism was discussed during the live-action show development and was deliberately cut away as it has no place in the new remake. The more weight with realism in every way, which promoted them to say, I feel like we took out the element of how sexist Sokka was, a 15-year-old. And he wasn't even that. It wasn't like he was saying like crazy things, like super duper crazy things that like are so wild. Nah, he was just saying, look, I'm the man. We shouldn't do that. We should be safe. We should just go and all that. That's basically the extent of it. And then literally her blow up moment with literally within the first episode, her blow up moment is how they found Aang. Her blowing up on Sokka for his quote unquote sexism. I feel like we took out the element of how sexist Sokka was. I feel like there's a lot of moments in the original of the show that were iffy. Yeah, I totally honestly agree. There was things that were redirected just because it might play a little differently in live action. There are entire Reddit threads about Sokka's sexism, discussing how the original Sokka, prior to his character journey, which is literally the point of his character journey, he is the weakest person in the Avatar crew. He literally doesn't even get a sword, an actual sword, until the last fucking joint. Would make remarks, girls are better at fixing pants than guys, and guys are better at hunting and fighting. Sokka's sexism wouldn't be the only difference Avatar fans see in Netflix Last Airbender show. Showrunner Albert Kim previously said the show does not begin the same way. Yeah, no, obviously, because it can't. The live-action series will also show the genocide of Airbender people and the rise of the Fire Nation, which was alluded to the animated series. This was consensus decision to show people that this is not the animated series. And this is what I'm saying. That is fine. It doesn't have to be the animated series. I wasn't mad at One Piece being the animated series. I just want you guys to give the creators the ability to choose how they want their art to be expressed in this way. Actually better show writers, people who actually have success, instead of you niggas who are trying to piggyback off of them. That doesn't seem disgusting. You would have to be an idiot to not be intimidated. 2 years developing the live action adaptation on Netflix before they shocked fans by announcing their exit. This is talking about the creators. Due to Entertainment Weekly, that is absolutely daunting to stick with the show without them. Mm-hmm. An idiot to not be like. Why don't you just make your own IP? Literally, you can do that within the Avatar stuff. That's what Korra was. Like this, and this is what really bothers me. Why all these niggas just can't make their own IPs? Why do you always have to try and ruin shit that? I 100% think you handicap it when you do things like this. Have to be an idiot not to be intimidated a little bit. My first reaction, hell yeah, was holy shit, do I really want to do this? Oh, wow, wait. My first reaction after hell yeah, isn't that fucking crazy? Hell yeah. Still another. Let me stop. Was holy shit, do I really want to do this? Is there a way to improve upon the original? Whether you tackle something that's ready to be beloved by millions of fans, you have to ask yourself these questions. And then I seen another one, and I didn't even see the article. I didn't see the article with this one either. But they're saying that they want it to be a Game of Thrones thing. The Last Airbender series is hoping to appeal to Game of Thrones fans. And the big quote that they took out of it is, it couldn't just be for kids. Which automatically, I know people, like literally the person who I was talking to this about, like the most, I would say, she told me that her mom and dad watched it more as of recently, and they loved it. So it didn't just appeal to adults. When I was watching it, I had an older brother that was 4 years older than me. He liked it. So it didn't just appeal to young kids. Avatar The Last Airbender showrunner says they purposely set out to please fans of the original Nickelodeon series when making the Netflix adaptation and, well, people who love Game of Thrones too. Head of the new outings released later this month, Albert Kim described the live-action show as a remix, not a cover, and that the team knew going in that it couldn't just be for kids. Season 2 and 3 are a lot more mature in theme than, say, Season 1 was. He recalled the cartoon in a recent interview. So for us, it was about striking that right balance and making sure you were true to the DNA of the original, but at the same time, we had to make it a serialized Netflix drama. Did you? Did you have to make it a serialized Netflix drama? What are the most memorable Netflix dramas that people care about? Niggas binge Netflix shows. Niggas don't respect it. Niggas don't really go back and re-watch them. Also had to appeal to the people who were big fans of Game of Thrones. So why did it have to? Why? Jesus fucking Christ, bro. Oh my Lord. Why? They don't say why. So it had to feel grounded and mature and adult in that way too. These are kids. The Avatar crew were kids. Korra was a more adult-centric show. What are you talking about, bro? It comes down to hitting the tone. I mean, we have the script, and then we're on set, and it's like, let's do this version. And then, like, okay, let's do sillier. Let's go even sillier. Okay, and let's pull it back. Says the director, Jabbar Raisani. So we just make sure we had options that we could really choose from in a range of post-production. Like, oh no, now we have this one. This is way too silly. That's our only choice. So what do we do? So protecting yourself, make sure you can shape the tone. Starring Gordon Cormer as a titular hero alongside Elizabeth Yu and Daniel Dae Kim. The show follows 12-year-old Aang as he, mind you, 12-year-old, as he learns to master all four elements. Alongside his newfound friends Sokka and Katara, who just so happens to be members of the Southern Warrior tribe. The youngster enlists to help all kinds of allies and colorful characters on his fantastical, action-packed quest. And this is just gonna be my end of it. One of the great things about Avatar is that all, like, literally, I don't know. My I seen this one tweet and it was favorite characters Toph, then Aang, and then between Zuko and Katara. Whatever. I don't know what cut off. But I know that and then like my friend said her mom's favorite character was actually Katara. So or not Katara, was Sokka. So that's it's such a dumb thing where it's like we don't expect any growth from these characters at these ages 12, 13, 15. We expect them to be fully mature human beings with no character flaws, with nothing. And like the thing with Toph was that like the reason why I gravitated is because she had a disability, but she was OD strong. She was always about that fucking work. And like the sacrifices that like Toph had to make as a character, for example, when Appa was taken, but she had to sit there and like, dog, that I'm sorry, buddy scene. It's just really it's really not like it's not genuine to me. Like when people do this, I really hate it for like the creators really when this happens the most. But I'm gonna stop talking about it. Penguin00 also made a video on it. I haven't watched this video. If anything, we can like take a small dive into the clip. Zero. Let me see videos. So right here. And I'm not gonna let his entire play because he does like draw things out a little bit. Literally. Wait. Y'all can't hear him. He said Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the most cherished cartoons ever. It's literally known to be a masterpiece. And it's just and like I didn't even know then these niggas walked away. Now that I know, it's look, I'm not saying that you guys should not watch it or whatever, because I'm pretty sure the
Do you also think of Game of Thrones? I imagine for all of you with a functioning frontal lobe, the answer to that question is a resounding no, which means you are not a showrunner for the live-action Netflix adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender because for some reason these absolute goofball-brained goobers think that they needed to change the show around to appeal to a Game of Thrones audience for some reason. I don't even think it's necessary to even entertain that delusion, but I'll do it briefly. Why? Let's just
hello. All right, yeah, they don't say why. Actually, it's the same article I read. They don't say why they did it. They just say, "Nah, this is what we're gonna do now." It's just crazy to me.
state the obvious here. Avatar aired on Nickelodeon. It's a cartoon. That is
And look, I think you can even like make the tone for One Piece was more serious, but they still made it so like it was still watchable for kids. I think Game of Thrones is watchable for kids. The first scene of Game of Thrones is literally, or not the first scene, but one of the biggest scenes in the first episodes is literally incest. And this is what bothers me, because it's like, if you only saw Avatar as solely a kid's show, I don't think you should have been the one directing it. But we're done. We're moving on from this conversation. I'm gonna skip minutes in. What else does he have to say?
The trailer that dropped for the Avatar series, and like I said, visually, I think it looks pretty good, and I had somewhat of an optimistic outlook on it, but I had to mention that I was still very skeptical because the creators of Avatar walked away from this Netflix adaptation quite a while ago, stating creative differences. So the actual creators that put together this masterpiece left it because they didn't like the direction it was going. And now, as it gets closer to release, it comes out at the end of this month, it's pretty clear why they left. It's because they're changing all of the most important fundamental aspects of Avatar. It's very clear why the creators would have abandoned this pile of shit. It's not looking good. Visually, it's certainly better than M. Night Shyamalan's Sin from 2010 with the...
And that's the other issue. Niggas are gonna try and compare it to ass. Really gonna sit here and try and say this is good because it's not the ass that it was before? And this is the argument I be having with other people about other stuff, where it's like, look, I get it. Like, if they made a new Dragon Ball fucking movie, and then it was just, like, the other one was literally a 1 out of 10. Just be, one is giving it its grace. And then if they gave me a 4 out of 10, I would still be upset. This is maxing out to be probably a 6. Like, you would have to be damn near perfect. Mind you, the guy who wrote the books was working with the Game of Thrones niggas. It wasn't just them. And guess what? They basically did that final season mostly by themselves because they didn't have the book. They didn't have the book to script it all for them. And niggas didn't like the last season of Game of Thrones. That's all I'm gonna say on that. Let's talk about the All-Star teams, All-Star snubs, and then we will get to I guess first thing for sure is that they changed the way they're doing it this year. Like, they used to do the like drafts, as you guys might have known, where it's like somebody's a captain and then they start drafting. And then they changed it, which I thought was weird because I enjoyed the draft. I thought like the draft was like very much a lot of people's favorite. There's plenty of memes and stuff that came from it. So I think it's weird that they did it like that. But we'll go through this. Then we're gonna talk about coaching a little bit. And we're done. Coaching, we're going to talk about most of the Bucks and the Lakers, but funny enough, the two all-star captains for the East and the West, LeBron and Giannis. So, East Giannis, West LeBron. I'm going to first go through the Eastern starters and reserves, then I'll talk about the Western, and we'll go from there. So, starters for the East, Giannis Antetokounmpo, forward. Joel Embiid, center/forward. Tyrese Halliburton, guard. Damian Lillard, guard. Jason Tatum, forward/guard. Reserves, Bam Adebayo, center/forward. Pablo Banchero, forward. Jaylen Brown, guard/forward. Jalen Brunson, guard. Tyrese Halliburton, guard. Donovan Mitchell, guard. And Julius Randle, forward/center. For the West, LeBron, forward. Luka, forward/guard. Kevin Durant, forward. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, guard. Center, Nikola Jokic. Western Conference reserves, Devin Booker, guard. Stephen Curry, guard. Anthony Davis, forward/center. Anthony Edwards, guard. Paul George, forward. Kawhi Leonard, forward. Karl Anthony Towns, center/forward. Now, Going from the East, I will immediately say I don't think Damian Lillard should have been a starter. Possibly. Oh, in the East, I would argue he might not be. Well, in the East, he probably is a reserve. If we're looking through, and I'm just really gonna go by the teams. If we go by the standings for the East, Celtics, they basically got all theirs. Cavaliers, Garland has not been playing that well in the beginning of the year, so I can definitely understand that. He's basically in that similar boat as Damian Lillard. Knicks, Jalen Brunson should have been a starter. I would have chosen Jalen Brunson or Donovan Mitchell to be the starter, in my opinion. Shoot, I would have chosen Tyrese Maxey to be the starter over Damian Lillard. His numbers are better, and I'm pretty sure his efficiency is better. I think slightly he's a little bit lower on assists, and rebounds, but all right. But his efficiency, I'm pretty sure, is a lot better. But whatever. There's a Cavalier. 76ers fell. Wow, I didn't even really notice. But well, a lot of the East are really close in the standings, to be fair. But Cavaliers really only would choose Donovan Mitchell. Knicks, Jalen Brunson only. Tyrese Halliburton, the Pacers. Tyrese Maxey on the 76ers. Yeah, I would argue they got all the right names on the East. Trae Young, low key, over Jaylen Brown. Trae Young, low key, over Julius Randle for sure, but that's a forward spot, so I'm not going to be too mad at that. Trae Young over Damian Lillard as well. That would have been... Trae Young is the only snub, in my opinion. Because after that, yeah, there's not really anybody else that I would consider a snub. Anyways. Especially when you consider team standings, and that's the issue with Trae Young, his team standings. But that's not solely due to him, in all fairness, for Trae Young. And I'm a Trae Young, not big advocate. In fact, I would argue that I think Trae Young, unless Trae Young can be taken to an automatic contender, I think Trae Young needs to be. I think he should be. And literally, I'd only trade him to the Pistons if they're able to get that generational center. And that center has to be good on defense. I don't want to just another Jaren Jackson Jr. I need someone who's who's going to be completely a staple on defense. Victor, the other center is looking like another Victor possibly, but not as talented. I would prefer just a Rudy Gobert, except better, and possibly a post game where he can just catch a lot. He can destroy mismatches, and he can play off and set great. Basically, a Derek Lively plus. That's all I really need. That's all I think is needed. And then you just put shooters around Trae Young and Cade, shooters and defenders, and you should be good. I think Cade can play that shooting guard spot and in fact is good. And I think Detroit has the pieces to trade for Trae Young. I would definitely get rid of Duran if you're going to get a new center. I would definitely get rid of Ivy if you're getting those are definitely the pieces who I'd give away. That's a whole nother topic for its own other thing. I was to a Piston. Specifically about that. But yeah, East isn't too bad. There's only one snub. And I would definitely put Trae Young over Damian Lillard, even if Damian Lillard was in the reserves. And I would put Trae Young over Jaylen Brown. I feel like it's really between I would have taken out, if I'm taking out Jaylen Brown and Damian Lillard, is between them two, and they should have been the ones that are fighting for their spots. And I am a big Jaylen Brown fan. However, there are games where it doesn't feel like it feels like nobody's coming and showing up consistently, except maybe Porzingis, which I would, if he could only take two people from the Celtics, I might have put Porzingis instead of Jaylen Brown. But again, I would have just taken out Julius Randle. If we're going from the West, LeBron All-Star starter is kind of possibly popularity voting. As you can definitely notice that there is a bit of a regression. However, I don't hate it, especially since a lot of people get legacy stuff, and I still think he was playing to a reserve caliber. I would say if you want to, I would have given Anthony Davis the spot over him. Luka makes more than enough sense. He's almost averaging a 35-point triple-double. Kevin Durant, 28, 5.7, and 6.3. Makes sense. Can't hate it. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 31, 6, and 5.7, which is basically 6. Nikola Jokic, 26, 9, and 12, with obviously usually great efficiency. And then the reserves, I felt like they got everything right. I don't think Steph Curry deserved to be a starter this year, just because of efficiency and then team-wise and record and everything, since they do take that into account. Devin Booker, yes, makes sense that he made the team, even though he did miss a little bit of games. I'm not hating it. If I'm looking on the West side, let me put it on the West so I can see that too. I think Anthony Edwards makes sense that he makes it. I do think that's a little bit of popularity, but in terms of everything, he's the leader of the Timberwolves in a sense, and makes sense that he got the All-Star nod. Don't know about whether I would have chosen both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, but it's hard to have one without the other. Because you could really argue that Paul George might deserve it over Kawhi, or you could argue Kawhi might deserve it over Paul George. And it's really just based off of what you felt were the best and more important of the recent stretches of games that they each had. But I don't think I'm mad at the West All-Star team particularly either. I will say, I know... And let me see, Lowe's points were mostly Trae Young and Fox, according to his thumbnail. And I've seen mostly people have some issues with Fox. The only guards I might have Fox over, and I'm just not looking at the stats. Maybe Steph Curry, maybe, I don't even know about Steph Curry, but maybe Devin Booker. And maybe Anthony Edwards, but I don't know if I would give him. It's hard to give them the nod over to be fair. But if we look at what De'Aaron Fox is averaging this year, he is averaging 27, 4, and 5, while Ant is averaging 25, 5, and 5. Let me also pull up Anthony Edwards' statistics too to be a little bit more fair, because I also want to judge partially by consistency, or not consistency, but I also think Ant is a better defender. So let's also be a little bit fair on offensive numbers if we're going to be considering Ant as a defender. But even then, I understand it. Anthony Edwards didn't play in the most recent game where they lost to the Magic. So I gotta go to Ant's most recent game against the Thunder where he won, and it was a rivalry-esque matchup between Ant and Shai. But Anthony Edwards is averaging 25s. He has a higher higher field goal percentage, or higher 3-point percentage, but that's literally on the margins. So I don't hate if people want to have him over Ant. I wouldn't do it. Maybe over Steph. Let's look at Stephen Curry and then Devin Booker. Stephen Curry, 28, a lower field goal percentage than both Ant and them, but a higher 3-point percentage. And he's doing about same in terms of like other statistics as Fox, 4 and 5. So Steph Curry, I can easily see why people put him ahead. He's averaging more points on basically relatively the same or better efficiency. If you really think about it, Steph Curry is still shooting 40% from three, and he is definitely carrying a higher load. So the last one I would tend to compare is Devin Booker. He's averaging 27, 50% from field goal, so higher field goal, and slightly higher percent from three. Averaging a lot more assists and a lot more, and slightly basically equal rebounds. He's averaging 7 assists for people who didn't know. Let's look. Devin Booker games played this season. He's played 41 games so far. Surprisingly, I'll be honest. Because I thought he missed, like, how many games, how far are they into the season? But he's played 41 games. De'Aaron Fox games played this season. 42. So De'Aaron Fox has basically played one more game. So is De'Aaron Fox a snub, or was the guard positioning very stiff this year? Because I don't think he's better than Shea or Luka. I don't think he's better than Devin Booker or Steph Curry. So the only argument was Anthony Edwards, and or if you wanted to take off that center spot, because I don't know exactly if Cat is even the next best center/forward. I'd have to go through the West, but I don't. Yeah, no. Maybe he is if you go through the West. So like literally, the only person who I would think Fox beats out is Cat. However, that's not the position. So let me see. Thunder. If you want to argue, Chet, maybe I wouldn't. Not this year, anyways. I think he's still like he's not point wise. Maybe defensively he's better, but Timberwolves, yeah, that's Cat. Zubac, no. Nuggets, they already have Jokic. Kings, Sabonis. I don't know how good Sabonis has been doing this year. Suns, Nurkic, no. Zion, no, not their center either. Derek Lively, no, or any of their forwards. Lakers, they already have Anthony Davis. Jazz, Rocket, like, so, what is it? Sengun might have been a better choice. Maybe. If we look at Alfred Sengun, what is his numbers this year? He's averaging, no, because his 3-point percentage is so bad that it's probably not going to be that way. Yeah, and his numbers aren't all even as high as like Cat's, so. Yeah, Cat is the best choice. We'll watch a little bit of Lowe's video, Legend of Winning, on his new channel, The Low Post, where he has a little bit more NBA tape.
So last night we had the NBA All-Star reserves that were revealed, and of course people are going to make a big deal of it, but before we get into that, let's just go over the people. First, Eastern Conference, we have Jaylen Brown from the Boston.
I already went over them, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Of his shots, one of the best offensive hubs.
He's talking about Trae Young right now.
11 is amazing.
One
now,
of the
granted,
best.
they are at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. I think that's probably the biggest reason why they were not able to make the All-Star. At least that's I think that's the biggest reason why Trae Young was not able to make the All-Star game. But I feel like out of everybody who's in there, just to be honest with you guys, Paolo has to be the one that's the most questionable because I think Tyrese, he deserves it. No, I'm.
Yeah, I can agree that Paolo might be the most questionable. I don't even know how good his defense is. for it, but
huge on Maxey. I think Maxey deserves it. Maxey's going out there.
yeah,
He's
Maxey
balling, he's hooping.
100% deserves it.
They're having a career year breakout. He's deserving of an all-star. Bam representing the Miami Heat because Butler isn't going to be there. A lot of people want to ask about Randall. 2 New York Knicks players is kind of, but I do love the fact that Jalen Brunson's getting his love and stuff like that. But Paolo in there except for Trey. I think that's probably the biggest one. But that right there, for the most part, I feel pretty confident about that. They got it right. I think they got it right for the most part. And then
yeah, I don't hate it.
Flip side, Western Conference All-Stars, and this is where a lot more conversation to Snubs.
And I don't even, and again, at most you're saying it's one miss.
That right there was interesting, but more importantly, I don't even believe that I was thrown aback by. Because putting Towns in the All-Star game, when I don't even believe he's the second best player on the team, I think that's Rudy Gobert. That right there was interesting, but more importantly...
And that's where I'm like, all right, but All-Star game, unfortunately, there's also the allure. They want to see more offense. Rudy Gobert just wasn't the best fit for it, so I don't blame them for that. I also don't think Cat is the second best player, arguably, on that team either. But he's the second best offensive option, quote unquote. So
the biggest snubs on both,
especially since he dropped 60.
Yeah, the Sacramento Kings playoff team out there playing hard, 27-19.
Oh, I didn't look at Sabonis' numbers. Sabonis. I actually did not look at Sabonis' numbers. 19. Oh, and he's shooting great from three. 43.4% from three. It's really just that his numbers are probably down, I would say. 8 assists, 13 rebounds. You might have had him over Cat because as a rebounder and the 3-point shot isn't actually as far at all, and it's only a 3-point difference. Let me see. Karl Anthony Towns, 51. He's averaging 22 points, 51% from the field goal, 43% from three, 8 rebounds and 3 assists. Sabonis, 19 points, but 61.9% from the field goal range, 43% from 3 points. So 3-pointers might be negligible, even though I would say Cat does shoot more. But either way, if he's getting his points, he's getting his points. 13 rebounds, which is more than Cat's 8, and 8 assists, which is more than Cat's 3. You might argue that Sabonis is actually a better defender than Cat. You might be able to argue that.
One of the best offensive units in the NBA, and they have not one but 2 all-star caliber players in both De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, and neither one of them made the game. Neither one of them are all-stars this year. I think that's definitely questionable. De'Aaron Fox averaging 27 points, 5 assists.
I think De'Aaron Fox definitely has it.
47% from the field, 38% from behind the arc, and then Sabonis is giving you 20 and 13. I think he's leading the league in rebounds this year, 62% from the field. Neither one of them not being in the all-star game is certainly cause for a lot of questions. A lot of people are up in arms about this. Breaking news, though, however, because both Randall and Joel Embiid, and please get back soon, brothers. Get back healthy soon, bro. We especially Embiid.
Yeah, especially Embiid, bro.
Both of these players have been out. They're not going to be healthy. Embiid is dealing with a knee problem. He's more than likely going to miss the All-Star game because it's right around the corner.
Yep, so Sabonis is going to be.
Games ago, dislocated his old arm, so he's going to be out as well. A lot of people are then asking the question, who are going to replace them? We have Trae Young, Jimmy Butler, Porzingis, Jared Allen, and Derek White. Now, I think pretty obvious.
Whoa, wait. Now, this is why I think it's nasty. I get Trae Young. I get Porzingis. I get Butler. But the fact that, okay, those are East. Oh, you can only choose.
But the other selection, I don't know. If they feel it necessary to replace a front court player with another front court player, then that kind of leaves us with Jared Allen, Porzingis, depending on how they view Jimmy Butler, also Jimmy Butler as well. So that will be up for question. I think Jimmy's probably going to be the player that is going to be in that conversation. I see a Toronto Raptor fan in the chat saying Scotty Barnes. But I do believe that Trae Young, even though he didn't make it, even though he is someone that, it's a bit questionable what
I think I would force it. He should force it.
So shout out to Trae Young. And then I think it's going to be interesting to see who gets replaced. Adam Silver picks to replace Julius Randle or Embiid.
I think they should force Trae Young.
Again,
and
it's just very, very
I would want to force.
Exactly it means to be an
like, if you want,
now,
I'll just at least do Sabonis.
Something else that has to be introduced. Shout out to Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam also not being an all-star. 22 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5 assists. Pretty
Jamal
good.
Murray is also an idea.
Not making it this year, despite the fact he had it last season. 24 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. This is another conversation piece as well. I'm going to say this though. For the most part, I feel like they got it right. Shout out to Wembanyama. Shout out to Wembanyama. Now, everyone else is pretty self-explanatory. Pretty self-explanatory, man. But for whatever reason, people got to make things way more complicated than they need to be. So our good friend,
Let me see
ESPN analyst insider Amin, also used to be a lot of front office work out in Phoenix. He had a gripe with another name, but it's not Towns, not Randall. It's actually a top 10 player. Let's see what he had to say.
Why the is Anthony Davis an all-star? Why is Anthony Davis an all-star?
Oh, yeah, we're not doing this. This nigga said, why is Anthony Davis an all-star? Are you dumb? Anthony Davis. Let's go and read it off ourselves, all right? He's averaging about 25 points, 55% from the field goal, 30% from three. That's not the best, but 12 rebounds and 3.7 assists with elite defensive player of the year. We used to give Rudy Gobert All-Stars nomination because he had defensive player of the year caliber defense. Anthony Davis is playing, same with Draymond, plus assists. But Anthony Davis is literally playing defensive player of the year caliber defense. I'm not about to hear this. I'm not. Anthony Davis should have been a starter low-key over LeBron. I remember I heard this one argument or topic, and it was all like, the only way the Lakers can win is if Anthony Davis is the best player. And that arguably Anthony Davis is already the best player. He's just not consistently the best player. And the argument is that even on Anthony Davis' worst nights offensively, he is still defensive player of the year caliber player. However, he also has those nights offensively where he can be where he is dominating, maybe unstoppable, or even above average for his position. And when you keep those two in mind, as long as he's average, even average, you could argue he's already a better player than LeBron. If it's just him doing his average offense, which would be like 20, 22 points a game, his average offense is still, keeping in mind his defensive player of the year caliber defense, that is still better than a aging LeBron who can only really play scheme-like defense at this point. Obviously he can he can put it in gear every now and then. And I would argue most of his defense is mostly due to his intelligence and scheme at this point. And then he has also lost a step offensively, to which his offensive presence is not so dominating that he can mainly lead an offense. So in that terms, I don't understand why people's hurt or dismay is there. Again, I would only argue, I think they got it pretty right. Pretty much right. Now we're going to do coaching. It's not going to be too in-depth for the coaching. I didn't talk about the Giannis coaching situation, so I do want to. Okay. So, and I'm not going to go and pull everything out and do all the reports and all that blah, 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 blah. Oh, I might also talk about the 65 game stuff. Ooh, do I want to? I'll briefly talk about coaching. So, for the Giannis stuff, it was on the record that he had the chance of getting Nick Nurse. But, okay, number one, I didn't think Coach Bud needed to be fired. I will say I have made the mistake of wanting Coach Bud's job during that initial playoff run where the Bucks won the championship, because I felt that his offense was always lacking while his defense was always solid. However, I felt as though he just had great defensive players that it made it seem like the defense was better than it was. And I couldn't argue that it was just purely scheme. And I felt like there have been instances where it's like, yo, sometimes, especially against Jimmy Butler, for example, I want Giannis to defend Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler is not a good shooter. Jimmy Butler, unless you think that Giannis is going to get into foul trouble, I would want him on him, because Jimmy Butler against great guards, even in this past playoff run, he was like great defensive guards. He was cooking our guards. He was cooking the guards on the Celtics. I'm talking about our guards in that. He cooked Derek White. He was cooking Malcolm Brogdon before he got injured. He was cooking Marcus Smart in certain positions. So it makes sense that you put a longer, stronger defender on him, arguably. I don't know, not all our forwards are stronger, but it makes more sense that you put a longer defender on him so he can't get those easy looks at the rim. So he has to actually play more on the perimeter. Because unless you don't believe in your defense enough to cover everybody else, and even then, even with Jimmy Butler's better shooting percentages, it would still be easy for Giannis to sag off of him. I would still prefer that, because if Jimmy Butler wants to beat us with catch and shoot 3-pointers, that's fine with me. That is fine with me. If Jimmy Butler wants to try and like step into the 2-point line, then if he doesn't want to shoot and he has to shoot a like that type of mid-ranger from the side, I don't think he can. I think he's more of a fit. He needs to get his feet under him. When he does the mid-ranges, got to do a little bit of shifting. It's like more of a fadeaway as than like really he's shooting pull-up 2-pointers when he's already facing up to the basket. I don't think that's his game. Like, I didn't like the game plan from either teams, Bucks or fucking Celtics, when it came to Jimmy Butler. And even the Celtics, we low-key were getting bailed out because Jimmy got injured. He was fully healthy during that Bucks series. He was partially injured during that Knicks series. And we almost got fucking walked by them, almost damn near a sweep as a Celtics. But again, that's besides the point. Ultimately, I didn't think Coach Bud needed his job gone because I didn't blame him for this playoff run. Especially with Giannis getting injured, especially with some issues that happened with his family. I didn't think he was like to blame per se. And then they hired David Griffin, or what was Bucks, Adrian Griffin. I didn't know too much about him. Apparently, he had already been in the organization. He had already been a coach. And Giannis, like, claimed for him. I was like, that's cool. Then they traded for Dame. I didn't hate the Dame trade. However, I was a little hesitant. But I thought it would be okay because I figured Middleton would have another year on him and he would be getting better. Middleton has not really been looking that much better, to be fair. Arguably, I would want him to be looking the best defensively, not offensively. I'd rather him put more time to that because that's what the team needs, but And then there was all this stuff where he's trying to do a more aggressive scheme, which is not really necessary when you have one of the best defenses. He wasn't hiding Damian Lillard for some reason, which I always think is dumb when teams don't try to hide their guards. Honestly, I would say like coach game planning, like defensively, has taken a dip since COVID. Like 2019 was the like best chess match between Nick Nurse and what's his name? He's the general manager for the Celtics now. Brad Stevens. Like, thinking basketball, I've already continuously talked and raved on about how I love that episode and whatnot. But there's that. I don't know. It just seems a little bit, like, weird to me in totality. But, I can't control that. Moving past. And then they fired him to hire Doc Rivers, who I'm 100% critical of. He had the best team in the league when he won the championship, and he still struggled in some of those series. Talking about the 08 Celtics. Never made it back. Or I think he did make it back, and then he lost. And it's after that, it's like, what does he have to show? He's had some of the most talented teams. Obviously, I'll give some of that to injury. But he's had some of the most talented lead teams, and he's had them lose in record fashion. And a lot of those losses were obvious adjustment issues. A lot of that is you're making your team lose confidence in you. It's not good when you say, "Oh yeah, if he doesn't like how when he came off the Clippers with Paul George and Kawhi, and he said if Paul George doesn't like how he was being used, Ty Lue's on the bench with me, so he's gonna have to get used to being used like that. And then they make it to the Western Conference Finals, something they never did in your tenure. There's been some arguments that he's had, like especially with the Clippers, he had some general manager duties, and that could be some of the issues. I felt like the Clipper teams were good. Again, it's part of the coach, like especially head coaching. Like you can delegate some of the adjustment, the game planning to other coaching, but especially the head coaches. One of the biggest things is managing egos and being able to keep your team accountable and keep them in it. Don't think Doc Rivers is really the best for that. And it felt like it was shown in none other than the Bucks losing in a comeback victory for the Portland Trailblazers. And even on that, apparently Doc Rivers was giving Adrian Griffin tips while Adrian Griffin was coaching. Now, I'm not saying it's a sabotage job, but if this nigga couldn't even help from outside, couldn't do any help from outside, I don't know much more help he could have been. All right, now the next thing I want to talk about. We'll talk about the Lakers coach. Ham, as long as he has the players on his side, I don't think he's bad. I feel like LeBron, to an extent, has had to be like the coach and the leader in a locker room in a lot of his career. So it's not terrible for him to be that. I do think that Ham's biggest issues is the weirdness with his rotation and his guys. And what has been pointed out is that it seems that Darvin Ham is using players that he's familiar with over players that he should be trying to develop. And cohesion with. Those Torian Prince and somebody else when he was coaching the Hawks. Which I don't think should be like, I'm okay with having like one like defender or like you can have the best defender in there. But I question why you wouldn't give more minutes. I question why Austin Reeves is doing good, why you were so quick to take him out the starting lineup and then not put him back in, and the same with D'Lo, and then he just mixed match. And granted, there were some injuries in the beginning of the year, but it was never to the extent where he should be trying to have, like, I would have Vando, LeBron, Anthony Davis. That would be the front court. Back court, I would prioritize shooting, and I would just use Austin Reeves and D'Lo. Vando, and to a lesser extent, LeBron can guard, can get on some guards and some forwards. So I would argue D'Lo and Austin Reeves don't really have to focus on that. And what you're really wanting from them, and then you would also try and stagger their minutes, some minutes where LeBron isn't playing or some minutes where AD isn't playing. And then that's when you'd bring in additional defensive pieces while letting these guys primarily start running the show more and not just be spot-up shooters. You would let D'Lo and this backup center run pick and roll, or you would let D'Lo and and Vando with Rui run pick and roll, and you would have Rui in there with D'Lo and maybe and I wouldn't put Austin Reeves, Rui, and D'Lo in. I'll just put Rui and D'Lo. I feel like that's a good one, or Austin Reeves and Rui. And it's just like that. And then like Cam Reddish is more of a bench piece where you put in those bench lineups. I don't know why you'd start with him when he's not even shooting great from three. Torian Prince, I kind of understand just because his shooting percentages, but is his defense good enough to warrant that then? If you're going to put him in a lineup that are struggling defensively in certain aspects, I don't know. feel like that's all for this episode. I will talk next episode with the 65 game limit. I will say briefly, don't have an issue for in terms of regular awards. I have more issue with it in terms of all NBA type stuff where is like more of a thing, because I feel like that's more on ownership and whatnot if they want to give players the money, especially if the players have played deservingly so. And it is kind of a unworthy motivator for players to try and get that money, especially with the way some of these contracts are written up, especially when you're coming off those rookie deals and whatnot. Because it's not just, getting all NBA at some point. It's getting all NBA specifically the last year deals usually. But hey, what can we do? This is Just Talking Podcast. We're checking out.
That was the Just Talking Podcast.